Here we are again. Massive welcome to all our subscribers, first-time viewers, and of course, LinkedIn members to the next episode of My Cyber Pathway, where we get to hear from security professionals, can't even say that word today, professionals, about their journey into the industry and of course their day-to-day roles. And today I'm going to be joined by Tanner Jones. Tanner has got a love and deep passion for cybersecurity. As a young college student, he found a mentor who exposed him to both the offensive and defensive security space within information technology. He graduated from Carnegie Mellon University in 2023 with a Master's of Information Systems and Policy Management, and soon dove into his role as a technical account manager for the tech startup TestifySec. At TestifySec, he primarily supports the US Navy in their effort to modernize combat systems. The Navy has established a software program called The Forge, where they aim to transition from building big monolithic Aegis systems to modern integrated combat systems that are built using DevSecOps principles and modern software architecture and practices. And when he's not at work, and we'll find out more about his job in a little while, Tanner enjoys spending time with his wife and his one-year-old son, as well as exploring the outdoors and dabbling in a bit of woodworking. I'm so going to ask you some questions about that today. But before we bring Tanner on and hear more about his journey and the work he's doing at TestifySec, I'm your host, Simon Linstead, and by sharing stories and best practices over the last few months, it's led to over 187,000 views here on YouTube by you, our amazing 9,322 subscribers. And super excited and very proud to be a media partner for RSA in San Francisco this year. And I'm going to be hosting vendor interviews from the 6th to the 9th of May. If you're a vendor and you're watching this and you're interested, reach out to me through LinkedIn, YouTube, or the community, or even on the RSA booking site. Just search for InfoSec Live. Be great to get some time with you. But let's not forget where all this came from. This all began in the free InfoSec Live community, where we have study groups, mentor sessions, and regular networking events to help you raise your game in cybersecurity, no matter what stage you are in your career, giving you the opportunity to network with over 6,000 cyber professionals. We'd love to see you there. If you're not brave enough, can't point the right way, to click on the link, scan the QR code. There is a link in the description that you can click on if you're too scared to do that. But whether you join the community or not, being here and engaging with our content is what really matters. So if you're watching this live, please do like and subscribe, and make sure you ring that bell to be notified of future content. And don't forget, each and every one of our live shows gives you, our audience, the chance to engage with our guests. So make sure you drop any questions in the chat. Okay, time for me to stop rambling on. Let's bring Tanner on. Hey, Tanner.
Hey, Simon.
Thank you very much for taking the time to come on.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show. Excited to be here.
It's a pleasure. It's been, well, I'd say it's been a minute since we spoke. We spoke about a month ago about you coming on the show, but I think before that, it was probably just as you were graduating university, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. I think it was back in the infancy of InfoSec Live when you first started the community. I know I reached out to you and we helped you a little bit along the way getting set up. And so it's great to see how far it's come.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's great to see how far you've come, more importantly. And that's exactly what the show's about today. I did give a little bit of background on the intro before I brought you on. But for those watching who don't know Tanner, just give us a bit more about yourself, what you did before or during university and what your passions are before we crack into your journey.
Sure. Yeah. So really my passions lie within technology and business, trying to kind of merge the gap. In my undergraduate degree, I had a great mentor that helped me really kind of define my path and the steps forward that I could take to get into InfoSec. He had a lot of business experience as well as technical ability. And so he was able to kind of help me refine my path and kind of my path forward to kind of get exposure to the InfoSec world as it's so vast and large. And, you know, I'm just currently in one little sliver of it. So my experience kind of lies, I first started out an undergraduate degree in construction, working construction for a general contractor, transitioned more into sales, did a little bit of sales. And then through my university experience, I got some exposure through some internships that kind of helped push me along my path and kind of figure out what I liked and what I didn't like. So those internships are definitely very valuable alongside that mentorship to kind of guide me along my path.
It's really interesting because you see a massive debate online about whether you should go to university, whether you should go to college or not. I hear lots of success stories, like people like yourself who's gone through, found it really beneficial. Do you think it depends on what university you go to as the support you get? Because you hear conflicting stories, don't you, from different people?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely have my biased opinion based on my experience alone. But I feel that the likelihood of having success is much higher if you're able to go to a university that has great support. My undergraduate degree, my program was rather small. I had class sizes of 30 to 40, maybe 50 people max. I was able to have one-on-one with professors, have that mentorship there, as well as collaborate with other students. So there's definitely pros and cons to going to school. But I was very lucky and fortunate to, have a lot of pros with those things that I mentioned. So I definitely think it's valuable. But it also depends on the personality
Yeah.
of the individual and kind of what they're wanting to achieve.
It depends how you learn as well, doesn't it? I think
Yes, yeah, for sure.
doesn't suit everyone, as doesn't self-study learning. For me, I find that very, very difficult to motivate myself and keep studying. What was it that got your love for technology and security in the first place, Tanner?
Yeah, growing up, I always had like an engineering mindset. I always wanted to take things apart. I always wanted to kind of understand how things work, why things work, why things don't work. And then growing up, I was naturally, just drawn to computers. And so, I started building computers, taking them apart, figuring how things, worked. And then I just kind of slowly um, got more exposure. And then I realized, I really enjoy this. And, I can kind of pursue and study things that I enjoy. And then the university and my education kind of helped me align on how I could make money with that. And also help me in my studying habits and how I study. So that's kind of a little bit about that.
Thank you. It's interesting. I want to move on to what happened when you graduated from university, because when we spoke a couple of years back, maybe 2.5 years ago now, you were looking for quite a technically focused role in your head, I think, in cybersecurity. Talk to me about the role that you've ended up in and how different that is from your perceptions of the role you were going to get 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. So I think coming out of my master's program, the master's program does a really good job of funneling into large corporate companies, large consulting firms, large tech firms, within security, within policy, within privacy, et cetera. That's kind of the expertise of that given program. And so, in the beginning, I was like, yes, I want to work for a large company, get a lot of experience in a large company that's well defined. And that's kind of what I was pushing towards. Now, due to economic situations, when I graduated, the job market was very different than what it was when I first started. The job market was very hot. People were hiring. You're getting very high paying jobs. They could be remote, very flexible in that nature. As I approached graduation in May of 2023, the economic situation changed.
Did you take that personally, or?
It was definitely a hardship. I had some great things lined up. I was like, oh, sweet. All my hard work's paid off. I'm going to do this. This is great. I had a nice picture painted for myself. And then things changed. So it was definitely a hard moment. But I was able to learn a lot through that hardship. And then that's where I landed on, more of a startup scene. I still wanted that flexibility, but I also wanted, a great opportunity and the ability to learn. And having a somewhat technical role, but also learn other aspects of business.
Thank you. Let's talk a bit about the company you've joined, TestifySec. This isn't a sales pitch, by the way. I've just done this. If anyone's interested, again, there is a link to TestifySec in the description if you don't want to scan the QR code, but if you want to have a look. But just tell us a bit about what they do, Tanner.
Yeah, absolutely.
I suppose, and also why they gave you the job is what we want to hear. Right?
Sometimes I ask that question. Yeah, if you are interested, please check out the website. They've done some great work. We actually just revamped, like put a whole new face under the hood, and everything on TestifySec.com. So definitely check it out. But really, what TestifySec's about is it's striving to solve the problems of software supply chain security. We're built on very strong foundations within the open source community, but what we're striving to do is help secure the software supply chain. So very easily stated, we're trying to understand who, when, where, and how your software is being developed, capture all of that information, and then you're able to verify that information. So rather than like evaluating a pipeline, for example, when you're building software through like a GitLab or GitHub pipeline, you're like evaluating the pipeline, arbitrarily, but rather you're able to evaluate the pipeline based upon evidence that the pipeline produced. And then you're able to compare what you expect the software to be, how it was built, by who it was built, right? We're able to evaluate that and ensure that nothing was maliciously tampered with or injected along that software, production process.
And I noticed from the intro that you provided me with that you do a lot of government work. Was that TestifySec's main focus when they launched? Because you said they were a startup, or have they been doing a lot of private as well as the government space?
Yeah, so the founders of TestifySec have deep roots within the government space, and so they're definitely very tied to that mission of protecting the nation and then infrastructure and ensuring the United States and their capabilities. And so there's still strong ties, but we're not trying to be a service oriented company. We're trying to build a platform and a service. So this can scale, and so this mission statement of securing your software supply chain can go beyond our services, to given individual organizations. But you're able to implement this tooling and really upgrade and enhance your software supply chain security. So that's kind of our goal overall. But we definitely have some consulting aspects as we're building the platform and supporting that.
I think what people would be really interested in, especially those who are looking to break into the cybersecurity industry, perhaps as their first jobs, would be what it was like on the first day or the first few months at work, and whether that compared to your own expectations of what working in cybersecurity would be. I'm aware your employers watching TestifySec, so obviously you can't be completely honest, Tanner.
Yeah. No, I think, there's great aspects of working for a startup. And there's another great aspect of working for a startup that's in a very niche field that's evolving and changing every single day, to where in reality, we don't have everything figured out. And so there's a lot of collaboration efforts. I'm able to, share my experience. I'm able to share my perspective on things, how I understand different components of what we're building, and, in the open source community and what they're building. And I kind of feel like, my voice matters in that aspect because it is so new, that we're able to have that collaboration. I'm able to have some impact on, if I am as a new employee of TestifySec, if I don't understand something, then how is a customer or someone new to the
Absolutely.
industry or someone wants to consume something that we're producing, if they can't understand it? And so I've been able to provide that kind of feedback and have that loop internally, as well as having an impact on increasing the
how long have you
knowledge
been
and the
there now?
awareness of software supply chain security.
How long have you been there now, Tanner?
I've been there about 10 months.
Okay, so honeymoon period's over. Talk to me about what you enjoy the most about the role.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main thing that I really love about the role is that I have responsibilities with the U.S. Navy on that contract, so I'm able to support that role really as a security engineer, and so I'm able to get hands-on experience and be able to help increase the success of this software factory called Forge. So I'm able to get those hands-on technical details around threat modeling and vulnerability management and DevSecOps and how to incorporate that within your development lifecycle. On the other side, I have internal work to TestifySec, where I'm help supporting engineering and sales, help stand up demos and really understand what a product is and what customers would like, and taking that feedback from customers and having that whole aspect, and then meeting with other folks at TestifySec, like the engineering team, marketing, and just kind of collaborating. Me being able to learn so much by their expertise, as well as kind of help TestifySec grow.
Love that. there's a couple of questions in the chat. One I'm going to bring up, which is around how to start a startup. Obviously, I'd like to hear your opinion on that. But for everyone watching, if you've got a question that you'd like to ask Tanner, do drop it in. If not, I'm going to ask him some random questions, which I think you'd like to know the answer for. I'm going to bring this one up first, which is Raywar's comment. How can we start a startup? My response was blood, sweat, tears, and hard work. I don't know if you've got a different one to that, or should the question be, why do you want to start a startup? I think would be my question. And if it's to make loads of money really quickly, it's definitely not the right option for you, unless I've got that bit wrong. Tanner and I were talking online before the stream started. I can't think of the terminology I should use for that. And we were talking about what it's like to work in a startup. And both Tanner and I'll put words in your mouth now, said that we thrived and loved the fact that there was, multiple facets to what you had to do. Sometimes you were pulled from one thing onto another thing. It's that variability and excitement that I love about the startup world. But I think if you're looking for stability and knowing what you're doing the same thing every day, perhaps a startup isn't for you. Tanner, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think if you have a great idea and you feel like you can have that you can bring that great idea forward and build a company based upon that, then great. I would say one thing is do due diligence. I would like to preface that I did not build this startup. I am an early joiner of the startup, but I did not start it from the foundation. But the two founders, Cole and Mikhail, have great experience and they really understand a problem set, specifically within the government and highly regulated industries, based upon their experience. So I think really doing your due diligence, trying to figure out what type of startup you want to launch and what field you want to go into. And then really from the beginning, how the founders did it is they bootstrapped it themselves. So they were putting their time in. There wasn't any external funding happening. And they were getting money into the startup through consulting services to kind of pay the bills as they were building this to expand. And then
being there and still doing it. Yeah.
Yes. And then from there, then you can go out and get seed funding and you can have someone buy into your idea and then get some type of external funding. That's kind of how TestifySec started.
Absolutely. I think from my perspective, especially since being in this industry, I've got 30 years business experience, but only 3 years cybersecurity industry experience. There seems to be a lot of people out there who have ideas, think they're brilliant, and don't do the part that Tanner's just talked about, the due diligence, the market research, asking the actual customers whether that's a product or a service that they'd actually want. That seems to be the most common mistake for startups that I've seen in the industry. But secondly, it's finding the right people to work with can be a big challenge as well. And the other challenge, especially when you get to year 2, year 3, you've taken on a bit of investment. It's normally the founders or one of the founders who've predominantly done all the sales up until that point. The next tricky thing that I've seen in my own businesses, consultancy businesses in the past, is how you move that from founder-led sales to sales-led sales. And that can be a bit of a trial and error situation for a long time, because usually it's the founders who are the ones who are bringing in all the money. But equally, it's the founders who need to be taking a step back and working more on the strategy. So it's a very, very hard thing. That's why you find yourself a Tanner, I suppose, isn't
it? That's right. Yeah, one little last note on there, Simon. Like if you're wanting to get some exposure into startups and good ideas around software, I would definitely recommend attending some type of open source conference. I attended my first open source conference in KubeCon Chicago this past year. And it was mind blowing. If you're technically oriented and you love software, you love geeking out about what you're building, what people are building, and really like collaborating and seeing those ideas and what's happening in the space, an open source conference is a great place to go there and vet your ideas as well as collaborate with really smart people that love nerding about what they're building. It's great. It's fun to participate in.
Oversharing, we call that in the business world.
Yeah, it's a fun time. No sales pitches, but just go and observe and just learn and really learn about what they're building. It's awesome.
That's a really good point. I've got a question for you. What would your advice be to someone who's just now looking to start a career in the cybersecurity industry?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Um, I think what we're really blessed with right now is the ability to find so many free resources. There's a lot of great resources, especially done through InfoSec Live, on how to get started in InfoSec. But I think I would do a little bit of due diligence and understand, where you would fit in, what you like, and do some research, and then kind of understand the overall field of InfoSec. And then you'll soon understand that it's very wide and very broad, and we're just getting little slivers within that large infosec community. So really understanding like what it is exactly, because there's a lot of, I think, misunderstanding of what infosec is and
Yeah.
what the actual jobs are. So kind of just understanding that aspect, and then finding somebody that has experience that you can receive mentorship. You want to be able to approach somebody and ask for their help, but you also want to sound knowledgeable because you don't want to waste their time. But if you can determine what you're interested in, say DevSecOps, and then find somebody that's in DevSecOps that can mentor you, give you feedback, give you some pointers, then I think that goes a long ways early on.
100%. And I think mentoring is a two-way street as well. For me, I think sometimes the mentors can get as much out of it as the mentees. And you see a lot of people online complaining about people not respecting people's time. I know a lot of people in the community have given up their time to mentor people who just don't turn up, or they turn up and they don't engage. And I think you've got to manage your own expectations and think about what you can give to the person who's mentoring you as well, because we were talking about previous experience, and we'll touch on that in a sec, before we went live, and we were talking about sales experience that you had before and how relevant that was. I mean, again, take the time to look at what your previous experience is, and as Tanner said, don't immediately think there's just two roles in security. And you didn't say this, I'm putting words in your mouth. I've got to be a pen tester or a SOC analyst. There's 50 other jobs out there, and once you've done, like you said, your due diligence, looked at the industry and worked out what ones you think you'd like to do, then look at your previous experience and see how it maps to it and how that can benefit you when looking for a job. I mean, let's talk about what you did before and during university and how you've brought those skills into what you're doing now. Tanner, can you tell me about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes the experience that we have, we're too hard on ourselves, but we don't think the experience that we currently have is worth very much. But I think that comes down to how you present it. And I learned that early on, as I had some exposure to the federal side. I was a federal employee for the United States, or for the United States Air Force, and I was doing a lot of kind of miscellaneous tasks around compliance, as well as a little bit of web development. I was getting some exposure to like risk and understanding risk from a cyber aspect. And in that moment, it all seemed pretty bland. I don't feel like I was making a large impact. But because of that experience with risk and understanding the government side, authorization to operate for like an IT system, I had some exposure to that. That's how I landed my job with TestifySec. Right. And that was experience. I framed it in the right way, and I learned how to frame my experience in the right way. And that's really, I think, one of the main components of why I got the interview with TestifySec. Right. That's what a resume does, is get you the interview. And then you have to sell yourself during the interview, alongside your resume. And so that's where I was able to learn a lot of those skills along the way on how to talk about myself and speak to my resume and my experience, and don't cut myself short when it comes to that experience. But also, don't fake it. You have to be able to speak to what's actually on your resume.
I hate that saying, fake it till you make it. I think it's
Yeah.
everything that's wrong with the world, isn't it? Let's be honest. You've just made me think, while you were telling that story, about the Steve Jobs speech, connecting the dots. Have you seen that?
I have, yes.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the chat for anyone who hasn't. It really resonated with me. I've done loads of different jobs throughout my very, very long career with my grey beard standing here. And especially when I was younger, there are a lot of jobs I did that I could not possibly, and a lot of things at school I did that I couldn't possibly see how it would help me in future employment. But the Steve Jobs speech talks about all the jobs he's done and the experiences he had and how they linked together to form Apple effectively in the day. And one part in particular was around the university he went to was one of the only ones in the US, or the biggest one in the US, that focused on calligraphy and font styles. And he took the class, I think, as like a filler, not thinking anything else about it. And then fast forward to when Apple came out, they had more fonts than anyone else, which, let's be honest, Windows then copied. So had it not been for him going to that random calligraphy class at university, we wouldn't have all the fonts probably that we're using on today's computers. So it just goes to show, when you're sweeping that yard or you're digging that hole and you can't see how this is going to benefit you, it could well do in the future, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think having a lot of experience across different areas is very, very beneficial. My background before my start in InfoSec was construction and sales and selling utility trailers and building those relationships, and all those skills are transferable, right? And those hard skills, you have to develop, but they also change frequently. But building those relationships and having the communication skills is definitely vital.
100%. Okay, next question. Got a couple more for you. We're doing a 30-minute show today, so we've got about 4 or 5 minutes left. Next question. If you could give yourself some advice at 18, what would it be? If you now could tell your 18-year-old self the advice,
18.
what would it be? Yeah.
Okay. Trying to think back when I was 18,
It wasn't that long ago, Tanner. Come on.
Wasn't that long ago. It was about 10 years ago. Let's see. Well, first and foremost, I would say have fun. Do what you love. Do what drives you and motivates you. Then also have an understanding of your future and what you want from your future, and how you can get there. Set up a rough idea of what you want. If you're interested in technology, then explore technology. Take the initiative, do it yourself, take ownership of your future and what you want. And along that path, learn to fail fast, and learn from it and continue to grow. Because that's a long life skill of just learning how to fail, getting back up, and then moving forward and taking what you learn from it.
Love that.
Yeah. And then as far as, just work, I feel like there's a lot of people that want to land the perfect job and won't take anything, even at a younger age. Just work, get some experience, learn the ethics of hard work, because that will be applicable to wherever you want to go. You're going to have to work hard.
Amen.
Yeah. So
yeah, but then in the fast-paced 30-second video world that we live in, no one wants to do the hard work anymore because it looks so easy on Instagram and TikTok, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
I think for me, the biggest lesson I've learned over the last 50 years is that it's not the destination that you should be worrying about. It's the journey. And you said it a few moments ago, making sure you're enjoying what you're doing all the time and being content and happy with that, rather than constantly chasing that next thing. And we're conditioned to do that. From leaving junior school, we're looking forward to high school, then we're looking forward to our first car, and then we're looking forward to a better car and a big holiday, and then a house, and then a bigger house. And it's just like we're programmed to be always wanting something else, when really what we should be doing is enjoying what we're doing at the time.
Yeah.
Whilst obviously having one mind on the future and the fact that you need to prepare. I should say that I spent 25 years in retirement planning before I came into this industry. But I think for me, Tanner, you've come so far so quick in this industry, considering you left university like a year ago or 10 months ago. I think you said you've been in the role now.
Yeah.
Although I've just said, enjoy the journey, not the destination. Where do you see yourself, last question, in 10 years' time?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely see myself within the InfoSec community, and really striving. I would like to be, in a leadership type role where I can make a big difference. Whether that's like a CISO type role, to really understand and really help drive information security in an organization. That's kind of my 10-year plan, is being able to really have an impact and drive an organization towards, being more secure and bring InfoSec, to the table, not to be an afterthought, but really a primary focus alongside the C-suite. I feel like as an industry, we're getting better at that. As different pressures happen, I feel like that's helping us kind of drive that boat to kind of push that envelope. But I feel like there's a lot more work to do. And along this, in the next 10 years, I want to get a lot of experience across different areas. Right now, I'm in software, getting exposure to software supply chain security. But I really think being a good CISO and a good leader is you need to have a lot of experience across different areas. And so that's what I strive to do is to continue to grow, continue to build relationships, learn from other people, and just try to have an impact on security at large.
I love that. Actually, one last question. I thought of it while you were just saying that. For me, we are getting better as an industry, but we're still not doing very well for the small, medium business sector. I think historically the vendor pricing models have priced them out of getting perhaps the help that they need. And for me, my hope is as an industry, we work out a way how to help the people who haven't got $10 million a year budgets to pay for it. I think it's probably one of the biggest challenges in what's now quite a mature industry in the enterprise space. It's finding out how we can make that fit and offer maybe stripped down services to the SMB sector. But Tanner, it's been a real pleasure. Do you want to just give, I suppose, a minute at the end talking about who TestifySec are helping the most? And we'll encourage anyone who's watching who it might be applicable to click the link and check them out afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely, Simon. So TestifySec currently is really working within the U.S. government, specifically within the DoD. We have some relationships with the Air Force, with the Navy, some other departments such as DHS, some other relationships. But we're really focusing on highly regulated industries. Within the banking industry, we have some partners there, and we're really trying to help. With as regulation comes down, we're really trying to help those folks. But we're also a startup, and we also understand, and we really truly believe that everyone deserves secure software. And our platform called Judge really wants to make that easy. That's the goal of Judge, is to make software supply chain security easier. Really facilitate having insight into how your software is being built, and having policies and strong policies around that to evaluate that. So you understand all the third-party dependencies that are coming in to your system and to your build system to produce a given piece of software. We live in distributed systems as far as for who builds software and when. It's all distributed across the world. Everyone is collaborating. Everyone's contributing code. And so we're really needing to tie in and get a better understanding of what and where and how and all those details of your software. So really, that's what TestifySec is trying to do with Judge, as well as build on top of open source tooling such as Witness and Archivista that are both open source CNCF projects. So you're welcome to go and take a look at those and understand the underlying tooling behind Witness and how it's leveraging the Toto spec on getting all this telemetry data, and Archivista, how it's stored in a data store, and then Judge is going to unify all that together and build policy management insight into your build process. So that's kind of really what we're striving for at TestifySec. We're super excited as we're moving forward. We're going to have version 1 of Judge here launching shortly. You can schedule demos through the website. So if you want to learn more, understand what we're doing in more detail, please go check out TestifySec.com. Schedule a demo. You're also welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn, whatnot. We could always set something up if you want to learn more about software supply chain security and what we're doing at TestifySec.
Thanks, Tanner. Let me get your LinkedIn profile quickly and drop that in the chat. I mentioned earlier there is a link in the description to TestifySec's page if you don't want to scan the QR code. I'm now going to drop in the chat a link to Tanner's LinkedIn profile. So if you want to connect with him, please do. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found it interesting. For me, listening to other people's journeys can give other people hope who are trying to break into the industry. I hope it's done that, and a little bit of inspiration too. Tanner, thank you so much for taking the time to come on. I look forward to when you come on the next time in your new lofty role that you'd have got promoted to in the next couple of years. But Tanner, thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone. See you all soon.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Take care, man.